All right, we're back. Paul, tell the people why we were gone.
I had elective surgery to remove. This is funny to you? All the pain that I've experienced over the last couple of months, and you're laughing. This is how you're.
Oh, man.
You know what? I'm not going to talk about it because it'll just dredge up too many, very painful emotions. But I'm happy to be back. I feel a lot better, and I no longer have to worry about those urges. So we're all good. Welcome to Racking Our Brains. I'm Paul.
And I'm Abdul, and today we're discussing something that we've been thinking about, and I hope you'll think about it too.
I'm most excited to learn how other people feel about topics I'm passionate about.
We know you have something to share, so leave a comment below.
Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get our newest discussion.
Urges. Urges. Holy cow. The urges to call people stupid on our podcast.
Yeah, I had it removed.
First test today.
Yeah.
All right. So we've gotten together again, and the topic today is a CNN article titled, "What's Digital Blackface? And Why is it wrong when white people use it?" And so I quickly sent this to you. You said, "Do you want to talk about this?" You called me. I said, "Let's save it for the podcast." So you didn't really go into it. So I don't know how much you know about it. So let's lead with that. When you hear that, what do you think they mean by digital blackface?
Okay, so just to admit that I did not read the article. He sent it to me this morning, and I've been running around, blah, blah, blah. Just able to jump on. But what it means to me, right? So blackface is when a white person pretends to be black for some type of comedic or entertainment purpose, I guess. Um, and then the digital part, I guess, would be once again, I'm going to use.
Just go with, don't try to get it right. Just go with your gut feeling. I think this is a good lead in for the audience, right? Because there's plenty of people who may not have heard this phrase.
Abdul. Abdul, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Shut up. Okay. So on the thumbnail, there was a picture of, I think her name was Sweet Brown or something to that effect. The woman who said,
Yeah.
Lord Jesus, there's a fire, or
Mhm.
I forgot what her other little catchphrases were, and she was famous for 5 seconds a couple of years ago. So I don't think it's an actual white person putting on um, quote unquote blackface or anything to discolor themselves to pretend to be black. I think it's more so maybe white people using black culture in some way, shape, or form. And obviously, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's probably from the perspective of black people. Black people are saying, hey, these white people are using black culture or what they find digitally online to lampoon or satire black culture. And they find it funny. We don't find it funny, or we don't like, these black people, don't like the fact that white people are laughing at black people's culture.
So you're a pretty good investigative journalist with the use of that thumbnail picture after the headline. But I don't think it goes so far as to say, I mean, I've gone through the article. It doesn't say that the intent is to lampoon or satire. The gripe is literally there is an emotion or an expression or a response that is apropos to a situation. So GIF culture or GIF culture, however you pronounce it, where you're in a text exchange and you'll respond instead of with a message that you type, an actual GIF or GIF.
Gotcha.
Right? And so it would literally be something you're trying to communicate, but just it's a much better job when there's something that fits perfectly. It's the same way that you and I on the show have at times. You mentioned the Jerky Boys recently, and we've quoted movies. It's basically like that, but it is saying very much what you led with. If you are white and the GIF or the clip that you're choosing is someone who is black, that is wrong. That is digital blackface.
Do you want to talk about sandwiches or something?
Hold on, I'm testing the urges. I'm testing the elective surgery.
Do you want to talk about like how like I don't understand how Arby's sells all these big meaty sandwiches for like $2.50. Like that's just crazy to me.
Can we talk about Arby's for a second? They have a gyro on the menu, a gyro, however you pronounce that too. GIF,
Thank
GIF,
you.
gyro, gyro.
First of all, that's your culture, and you should know this.
Nico from Nico's Deli.
Go ahead.
And it's actually really good.
Bro, the fact that you step foot in an Arby's, it like literally
No,
dropped.
they have a drive-through. They have a drive. I've not stepped foot in an Arby's, and I can't even tell. I don't even know if I have stepped foot in an Arby's.
You're willing to exchange money for nutritional death is scary to me. You know what? I should not say anything because I've literally never eaten at an Arby's. It just seems just dubious and I'm highly skeptical of the ability for them to serve quality nutrition at the prices at which they serve them.
The curly fries are delicious.
I'm sure.
Let's get back on task here. So you
No,
comedically diverted.
I have no comment. No, but because once again, then that means my surgery was in vain. Because if I say what I want to say, profanity laced tirade against stupid people in general, black people, stupid black people, stupid black people who are not really black. I don't know, whatever. It's just scary to me. Like this whole concept is fucking scary. Like, because I mean, this is not the quote unquote black appropriation conversation, and obviously I'll have to get way more opinions. Right? You gave me a synopsis of what the thought is, and I'm sure people have maybe slightly different, concept of it, and so maybe there's a concept that doesn't seem as just totally, just vapid, right? Like just like what is your problem? Like what is your problem? But anyway, like it sounds similar to cultural appropriation, where it's like this is our stuff, and you can't use it because of your skin color, which is the fucking problem to begin with. Your problem is that white people are doing things or not doing things because of your skin color. And now your response to that is to tell white people to do or not do certain things because of their skin color, which is asinine. It's just childish.
So you have a problem with the cultural appropriation argument in general?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's counterproductive, right? It's not just that I don't think it's fair. It's just counter fucking productive, right? Because it's the same reason I think the word race should be obliterated for most sentient people's vocabulary. Because what are you doing other than perpetuating the thing, the basis upon which other people? Because much of black is beautiful, and it's okay to say that you're beautiful, right? And it's okay to, but much of the black is beautiful is almost saying that, and I'm talking about real conversations that I have with real people in real life. My skin color, the melanin, makes me special. Like the melanin makes me special. Being from Africa makes me special. We were here first type attitude. Like that is the basis of racism. That is the basis of bigotry and ethnocentrism and all of that. And then, like, you can't fight fire with fire, idiot. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. And so going back to digital blackface, like, are you fucking kidding me? You really so wait, do you really think that everybody who uses that sweet brown thing is it funny or not? Like, because if black people use it because they think it's funny, then why can't a white? You're literally kind of saying that, oh, we can use it because we are using it the right way. But what inherently you're saying is that white people can't use it the right way. Not that they're not using it the right way, because I guess technically you could possibly tick and tie and prove that every white person who uses a, R. Kelly GIF or whatever is doing it with malice, aforethought.
I think that is my overall thought. I will say, initially in the first in the dawn of the GIF era, like the first time I encountered a white person using a GIF of a black person emoting in whatever way, it did make me think a bit like, well, that's different, but it's completely possible in the digital world.
Wait, let's examine that. That's what's different. Like, bro, obviously I'm not black, but if I were black, would you say to me, "Oh man, that's a black guy using a white GIF. That's different."
Well, I'll get there too. I'll get there too. But think about it this way. This is what I thought. Would Are we okay with? Is it the same as a white person doing as good as well as they can an impression of a quote that a black person spoke in a movie?
Uh, I'm sorry. What was the basis of that question? Because I understand. Go ahead.
Which, I mean, do you understand the question? First of all, I'll explain where I'm going with that. But
Can you repeat the question, please?
so a white person, I mean, let's just say a white person doing an impression of a black person. Period.
What is the question? Am I comfortable with that?
Yeah, are you okay with it? Are we okay with it? Should we all be okay with it? Do you feel your feelings are separate from how we should all feel? Like, what goes through your mind when you think that white person is trying to, and let's say trying to sound stereotypically black?
I don't. I really don't, because I think it's prima facie asinine to even evaluate the skin color or culture of the person who's doing it, other than to say, wow, like if not a Native American, but like if an East Indian, like a person from India or from that culture, who truly has a genuinely thick accent or grew up in that country, and let's just say they come to America and they're able to do, you know, another accent or whatever. It's impressive because it's difficult to learn other languages, to learn other cultures, but it's not interesting as if people wouldn't want to do that, because we're all people. It's interesting. I am interested in British accent, or I like all accents. Like, it's just, a weird fetish of, not fetish, I shouldn't say that. And no fetish is weird, I apologize. But I just think it's interesting on the sense of, oh, it is fun and challenging to learn other cultures and to truly be able to interact in them. But I don't think it's interesting in the sense of, wow, like, I get it. Like, I guarantee you there was a time when, probably in my life, but I was young and kind of just like naive. You look at white people and black people getting along, and you're like, oh, that's awesome. No, it's not, you fucking moron. Those are two human beings. And we're only doing that because we grew up in a place where stereotypically it was okay for white people to beat the shit out of black people. And now when we see white people and black people interacting, although you know how I feel about race mixing, but when
You didn't get that done in the elective surgery?
no.
He said, leave that in, Doc.
Oh, bro, you better not touch it. You don't. Um, you understand what I'm saying? Like, I get it that is our, like. So I guess what I would call being a, maybe a more sentient or conscious or higher, more highly evolved person is to be able to respond to that knee jerk reaction, which is my brain knowing history, i.e., Jews and Muslims don't get along. And when I see a Jew and a Muslim getting along, I don't think that, oh, great, that is so awesome. We're really making some headway. No, I just know that there's probably a shit ton of Jews and Muslims who don't have beef with each other, even if they're devout Jews or Muslims, because they're not dumb enough to really think that all Jews hate Muslims and all Muslims hate Jews, or all whites hate blacks, or all blacks hate whites. Like, so I fight that urge to feel like we're making some, like, it's really significant when people of different cultures or different ethnicities or skin colors or whatever interact. I think that's so fucking natural because I genuinely, that is my honest experience with the world. And maybe to some extent, that's also my hope, but that is my genuine experience with the world. When people are left to their own, like, kind of like innate devices, like, so whatever. I play poker. I'll share that personal tidbit, right? I play poker a lot, and it is predominantly with, people of the other skin tone, let's say, right? But like the fact that we're all cool isn't novel to me. It's expected.
I think that's
So,
a great point.
but
I want
yeah.
to go. I think that's a great point, right? Like, I love that. I don't think I've ever thought about that. The idea that we were somehow impressed by getting along all of a sudden. But I want to go back to the question about. So you're saying is it shouldn't be a big deal. It's impressive. You also touched on that. It's impressive if someone can actually do an impression of someone else. Um, but what about we quote this movie all the time. What about Tropic Thunder? By that line of thought, shouldn't that not have been comedic in any way?
No, 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 no. The comedy was like, if that were a true person of that hue, it would be just as funny. No,
Uh,
no, it would be just
no.
as. No, no, no. Listen, listen, listen. Right. So obviously there were a couple of lines where he said, I'm a dude playing a dude pretending to be another dude, right? So that's funny because of its, not of its implications, but because of the reality of it. He really is a dude playing a dude pretending to be another dude. But much of the comedy would have been fine if he were really that color. If that were Michael T. Williamson or whatever, which I don't know why he jumped into my head because he's not even a
Yeah.
famous actor. But if that was just a person of brown skin doing that, a lot of what he did would be funny. Now I get it. You know me personally, right? I silly like the shock value of it, right? So that shock value of that is a quote unquote Caucasian man playing a black man. Great, that's cool, but that's not what really drove the comedy for me. For me,
No, I get that.
obviously,
I totally get that. And I'm not asking why it was funny, whether it should have been funny, but just as you touched on, it had shock value inherently. And that was my point about what do we as a society, me and you on this podcast, whatever, feel about a white person doing an impression of a black person. And part of that was like, oh my God, is he really doing that? Right. And so to take it all the way back to digital blackface or the use of a GIF of a black person emoting in a particular way by a white person, it's similar. That was my point. There is a similar initial shock value to, and I guess that's where this is going.
no. Wait, wait, wait.
Maybe I agree completely off the rails, but I think that's the thought. If we are to be shocked by that in real life, for a white person to just do that, right? It's complete. Like if you could imagine someone who is just the complete opposite, and I don't know, we don't really know that Robert Downey Jr. character in Tropic Thunder and what they're supposed to have been like because he played like 5 different people throughout the evolution of his character. But if you just imagine someone actually like the scrawny kid in that movie, I don't know his real name and I don't know his character's name.
Oh, no, no, the white guy or the black guy? The
White
white
guy.
guy,
White guy.
Kevin.
Okay, Kevin. I'm going to take your word for it. Right? Like if he just all of a sudden, out of character, did one of the Robert Downey Jr. character lines, there's like a spectrum of shock value where it's like, whoa, that was so not you. And part of that is this is a white person and a spectrum of whiteness, and then doing an impression of a black person. And again, going back to the use of the GIF, I think that is, if I'm thinking through the thought process, or what we think the thought process is for the argument for digital blackface or cultural appropriation via the use of digital media, it's that shock value. It's that, whoa, 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 you would never say anything like that. That's completely unlike you. Why are you going there? Now,
How often do you know the ethnicity of somebody online, bro? Like you have to do
that's a
so
great point. That
work.
is a great point. That is a great point. But and
Work
so actually,
by
I'm
his
sorry.
name, where he's from, maybe his handle, because like a lot of times it's not even their name. So if I say, Fish and Gun 4327, you're gonna assume what, that I'm a white guy from Kentucky when I could easily be a black guy from Kentucky who loves fishing and
I,
hunting?
for a second I thought you would go. I thought you were going to say when I could easily be a white guy from Tennessee. I don't even think that's the argument. I think it's literally, and this is, I'm going to leave this for CNN, whoever wrote this article. I think it's really, look, even if we don't know you're doing it, you need to be aware that this is wrong. In your own social circle, your own group chat with other people, it's
Okay,
wrong if you do that.
but this is where it gets nebulous and stupid. What do you mean? What, even if, or what if, or we assume, or maybe what? Like you don't have better shit to do. You don't have better things to do than to scour the media and want to feel comfortable on fucking Twitter. That's my okay. That is beyond the point, right? I would need to speak to somebody who genuinely feels this way to really have a genuine conversation and say, okay, so wait, how do you really feel? Why do you feel this way? And let's talk about that, right? Because if CNN is saying it's wrong, but it's wrong, why? Just because of the skin color of the person who's saying something that might be objectively funny? Literally, you're not saying it's wrong because you hurt people objectively. You're saying that the people so let's just take, I don't know, I don't even think you like this guy, like the Jezelnik, right? Like a Jezelnik, or the other guy from Australia. Who's the guy from Australia?
Jim Jeffries.
Jim Jeffries, right? Those people are the Andrew Dice Clays of today, right? Really shocking, and will say anything about anybody. Size, weight, ethnicity, culture, religion, everything, right? At what point in time do we just say, like, it's a fucking funny joke? I get it. Traditionally, these two groups or this subject is taboo or was taboo or whatever, but a joke can still be funny even if it possibly, because somebody's the fucking brunt of the joke. It can't just always be an animal or a chair or a fucking bow and arrow. Sometimes it's going to be a fat person or a left-handed person or a woman. Like, we have to allow for that. And if you don't want to allow for that, then we're bleeding now all over the place, but it gets to the point of free speech. Like, what can I say or not say? And when you say because of my skin, and I'm not anti-affirmative action when it comes to jobs and, certain things when it comes to like structural societal things, but we're just talking about expression.
So
I, I
let's go
just
into,
think
yeah.
this silly. I just think it's silly. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, because you were saying you don't know what they're thinking, so it's worth us quoting here. So the article is mostly quoting a woman named Lauren Michelle Jackson, an author and cultural critic, it says, that she wrote in an essay for Teen Vogue. Um, the first quote is, there is a tendency among some to see, quote, black people as walking hyperbole. And so it goes on to say, she says it, quote, defining digital blackface, it, quote, includes displays of emotion stereotyped as excessive, so happy, so sassy, so ghetto, so loud. Our dial is on 10 all the time. Rarely are black characters afforded subtle traits or feelings.
Oh, I'm throwing up on the microphone. Go ahead.
I think I took issue with that last part, like as if there can't be a GIF of a black person that is subtle. I think that's just wrong. I don't know. I don't know how you immediately label everything as. I could. The truth is, you could say the same of GIFs of white people, like Michael Scott from The Office,
Not you
or
can. It is 100% true that the same is happening for gay people, right? Right. There are traits within the gay culture that we now use. I shouldn't say we because I don't. I genuinely don't. But like women, for whatever reason, there's some type of nexus between gay men and women, right? Where they're all buddy buddy. And yes, it's a gay thing that women now. It's not a gay thing. It is a thing that I believe was, and maybe I have this wrong. It may have started in the like feminine female side of the equation, and gay people started to use it. Gay men started to use it because of their, once again, their just close affinity and whatever partnership with with women. So I'm not sure where it came from, but like, are they fighting each other? Honestly, this reeks of we're a minority, we've been oppressed, so everything that white people do is problematic. Everything that they do is problematic. Just don't do anything. Don't do anything.
I want to go back to the thumbnail of the woman that was named Sweet Brown on the clip. Um, Maybe I'll try to integrate it here, but I may be going out on a limb here. Her issue is she raises, or the article raises this. She says basically what you said. Is it just for laughs? Can we just agree that something was funny? And what's wrong with that thought process of thinking, hey, this was just something that's funny? It goes on to talk about how this is essentially modern day minstrel shows. I'm not going to get into that tangent, but talking about the Sweet Brown clip specifically. So it was a woman who just had her house caught fire, and the news cameras are there outside, and she gives an interview describing what happened.
I
She was
thought
woken
somebody
up,
was, I thought somebody was barbecuing.
and my point, where I'm going out on a limb, is sorry. Let's touch on the article first. The article says, "What's wrong with thinking that clip wasn't just funny?" And she says, "It's law." Oh, let me find the actual quote. Give me 2 seconds. I got it. This is a different woman. I'm sorry. So Halford, let me find her. Elizabeth Halford, a brand designer who wrote an essay in 2020, being quoted by CNN. What she says about the Sweet Brown clip, she says, Halford tells CNN she was bothered that she overlooked the context of Sweet Brown's interview. The woman had just experienced a tragedy. That is all true. Your house caught fire.
Uh,
My issue is, I think if you're looking at that clip objectively, it wasn't a clip of a woman who goes, I just lost everything. She's in tears. She's broken down. What am I going to do? I don't have a home now. I have nowhere else to go, right? That all would have been horrible. And if that was taken to be laughed at, I completely agree. But what I saw in the Sweet Brown clip was that woman knew the camera was on, and she told the story in the most audacious way possible to make that a lasting video clip. That's my opinion.
you think Sweet Brown did that?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna say, I obviously neither of us know for sure.
Right.
I take that as being that's who the fuck she is. I don't. There's a really, in my mind, there's a really good chance that Sweet Brown is a colorful character, as we're gonna say, and that's really how she expresses herself. To like, she's, you know how like you and I would probably speak drastically different if we knew that we were talking to a news organization that possibly could share this across the world. You and I would not have the same conversation with each other that we would have with Barbara Walters. I almost said Streisand, but maybe Sweet Brown doesn't. Maybe Sweet Brown is like, yo, this is who I am. This is how I talk. But
I don't have an issue. I don't think she's putting on a voice or. I just think she's going over the. I totally agree. She could be emotive. She could be a storyteller, but like, it just seems over the. Again, if we are saying, "Hey, let's look through the lens," as this woman, Elizabeth Halford, wrote, that this is someone who just lost their house. It still strikes me as odd that she would go to the extent you do to, like you said, just describe all of the details and the way she does it, the phrasing she uses. I just think it's over the top. I think it's embellishment, even if she is someone who's naturally emotive. I mean, I think of something you said to me a long time ago, where it's like if you put a camera on people, I mean, it's kind of what you just said with the Barbara Walters thing, right? Like if you put a camera on people, you may get people who are actually different than what they normally are.
but technically we're all different, right? Like so, I am. I could be Neil deGrasse Tyson ish. I mean, he's corny, but I could be a fake scientist. You know what I mean? Like I could be really really smart and really really serious. I could be really really silly. You know, if you catch me in the right environment, I can be really really about that life. If you want to say that,
I
like I can
lost
be.
you for a second. I lost you for a second.
You mean understanding
You
what
said
I'm saying?
really, really. No, no, no. Like literally lost the audio. You said you could be really, really smart, really, really silly, and then it cut, and then I got you back at about that life.
Right, yeah, just about that life. Like I can be willing to fight almost any and everybody under the right circumstances. I could also be willing to be silly and fun and spontaneous and whatever, and then also be like overly analytical and you know, uh, 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 just nerdy for lack of a better word. You know, about a subject or about a situation. I think I don't think those are all me. Those are all Paul. But so Sweet Brown again. I don't. We should actually move on because this is not important whether she's putting on a show or not. Because at the end of the day, whether she's putting on a show or not, the people who are using that thought it was fucking funny. And in the beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I'll say that hopefully for the last time, in the sense that, and you're right. If if um if Sweet Brown was crying and devastated and just like beside herself, it would be mean and I don't even know about mean because when is Sweet Brown going to see my comments on Twitter? But
Or your personal text message exchanges. Exactly.
right. So is it I don't know. Like if you genuinely take pleasure in other people's demise, that makes you a disgusting human being. But I don't know many people like that. But you know that Paul can make that joke. Paul can laugh at shit like that. That doesn't mean that if I was in that situation, I wouldn't help Sweet Brown out. And then we're getting into whether or not a white person would help Sweet Brown out. Or a white person is happy that a black person lost their home.
Yeah, and that's the only reason I brought up that I think there's the possibility, and in my opinion, it's a strong possibility, and it's only an opinion, as you pointed out. Neither of us know whether it will be right. We don't know her. If she's putting it on, just so she could be like, "That was funny. Did you see me on the 6 o'clock news? That was funny." Maybe she knew. I don't know that they ever showed the house. Was it completely burned down? Was there a fire? And she knows everything's going to be okay, and then she puts on a bit of a show. Like that's different because if she's expecting, let's say there was a way to know, if she's expecting to go home and watch the 6 o'clock, or go somewhere else and watch the 6 o'clock news and see herself on TV and be like, "That was really funny," then someone else thinking that's funny isn't the same as what we said, right? Someone being completely devastated and then someone sickly laughing at that devastation.
Right. it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Like, I just think many of these conversations are just about an intellectual laziness where we don't want to ask individual questions. We'd like to just see some shit and make a grand assumption or generalization about the people because of how much money they make, or because of their skin color, or their culture, or their religion, or whatever the fuck. And at the end of the day, every white person who uses, and what's funny is, I guarantee you this, dude. If white people never use any black culture, like totally abstain from it, like a lot of these black people, I shouldn't say most, a lot of these black people, I would bet money, most black people would take that as some type of, oh, you too good for us? Oh, you don't even want to mix with our culture? Like, it's a lose lose. Like, you're just being a petulant child, like a jackass, because there's no basis for this other than the assumptions that you'd like to make about the intentions or the emotions or thoughts of these people that you do not know. It's
Yeah,
all
that's really speculative. Is it in the realm of possibility? I can agree to that, but I don't know. It's hard to say, and trying to put a percentage on what.
I apologize. Do not stop. Please finish. I apologize.
No, yeah, it just I don't know that it's worth trying to say that this number of black people would be upset with black culture not being used or acknowledged in any way. It's absolutely possible, but
No, it's not. But okay, so that's where I do have to stop you. I tried to not stop you, but I do have to stop you. Bullshit, right? Because I can show you a million examples of, like, designers or brands or venues where it's like, wait, why don't you show black people? What the fuck? Because we don't want to. Is that okay? Is it okay that we don't have black actors? Is it okay if we don't have black models? Like, black people will get very angry if white people don't do exactly what they want them to do. And you're right. The number, that's fine. But I would say these people who have a problem with cultural appropriation, I would say the vast majority of them, right? Because it fits their paradigm of, I'm a victim, so I need some special consideration when it comes to our interactions, right? Like, I can't emphasize enough how childish it is to say that because of your skin color, you cannot partake in these things that I find funny. They're not saying that black people shouldn't laugh at this. They're saying white people shouldn't laugh at this.
yeah, and the article explicitly says early on. Let me find this. Hold on one second.
Because they wouldn't even have to say anything about white people. If they thought this was inappropriate, they would just say the insensitivity on the immorality or the callousness of, new media or whatever the fuck.
The other thing, this one was weird that they lumped in here. You know the Michael Jordan crying?
Yeah.
They lumped that in there as, which is weird for the argument that was given about being hyperbole or so sassy or so over the top or the dial being on 10. Like, that is just somebody crying.
This new Karen shit. How is this any different from the Karen shit?
But that's an interesting parallel. But the quote I was going to say early in the article is, if you're black and you've shared such images online, you get a pass.
All right, I'm done, bro. Like, that's when I just close it up and say, go fuck yourself, San Diego. I genuinely am not going to listen to somebody say, hey, black people, do it all you want. White people, no. I'm not having that conversation with that human being.
Yeah,
I'm just not.
Sorry. That brings me to what I think I want to close on. At what point, and you sort of alluded to this earlier, at what point do we get to all just be people and select whatever GIFs we want?
Well, never in the eyes of these jackasses. But that's what I was saying before. Where, like, there's another thing where, and this is a big part of society, is where it's like, people are breaking their necks to make whatever they're interacting with now. This dude, I don't know, Gary in Montana said something, And now it becomes a thing. It is not a thing for the world. It is not a thing for whoever. If Gary is a white, Catholic, tall, middle income, whatever other demographic you can throw him into, like, your beef should only be with Gary, not even the other people in his shared demographics. Right? But that's what I meant by the whole intellectual laziness of it. Like, just fucking find Gary and yell at Gary about how he feels, or figure out how Gary feels. Don't just assume that everybody in Gary's church feels the same way. Don't assume that everybody at Gary's job feels the same way, and everybody who's Gary's height feels the same way. Like, that's another thing that's really annoying, is that we turn these, singular interactions into some type of social paradigm, which is not. Now, the assumption can be made that Gary absolutely is not the only person who feels that way. But then talking to Tom in Kentucky is not helpful, because he doesn't feel that way. And all he's going to do is say, you're an asshole for assuming that.